Last night, I did something that I rarely do. Instead of just revving up the camera while the fire was hitting the pan and going, "What's good YouTube?" with my raw thoughts, I had to sleep on this one. Pro Play Games and their tour has created their own ban list, and as I understand it, it's only active a couple weeks, I think till 6/27, or the end of their first season, and they've gone ahead and banned Halifabrax, Block Dragon, and limited Scarlet Sanguine while taking Konami's changes into consideration. So they've moved 3 cards for the player experience in their tournament, but with that you immediately open a very real conversation of, well, these results aren't real Yu-Gi-Oh! They don't matter anymore. No matter how many high-end people in the community back this, how many pros are playing, how many people are attending these events, you do open that conversation. Now, to note, the moment that they've made this announcement, the community's been abuzz with this, and you've had both sides of the fence, but they've hit record-breaking pre-registration, already over 230 people, so they're gonna have a bigger event than pretty much any of their events, wanting to play in this. Now, here's something I really liked from the Pro Play Tour that was happening. You had versus the Adamantipator combo that takes forever that people are complaining about, versus the synchro boards that do lead many different decks down the same route. You had decks managing to win and top and play against those in very entertaining fashion. Sutff, best deck pendulums, actually performing pretty darn well in these events. Ryan Yu's Sky Striker is probably the biggest thing to happen while events have been on hold, and we actually did see a market impact, which is going to come later in this conversation. A ton of people comparing this to ARG and them having the potential to create their own market versus this being only online. Then you also have Salamangreats performing. So many different things have happened in the Pro Play Tour over the last couple months that they have become the kind of household name for online tournaments. You also have Luxury Gaming really ramping up during this time if you still want to play traditional Yu-Gi-Oh! And I hope they actually run a couple events under this so we can maybe get a sneak peek or extra practice. But for me, I'm still somewhat split on this, and you've seen the community tear into George, and you've actually seen him own this image. Like, George has posted this image with explanations on the format, so it's not just this whole positive, yeah, this is what the ban list should have been. It's a lot of people saying, well, no, I want to play real Yu-Gi-Oh! I want to practice. Konami's minimalistic list is because they don't recognize online formats or online Yu-Gi-Oh! Or the problems there, and they have remote duels coming, so it was an unbanned list. I also think that they went ahead and avoided a lot of issues on this list, like Mystic Mine being a thing. That's one of the immediate cards a lot of people bring up, but again, I think this is for the player experience, what they're doing here. The Adamantipator combo is something I don't enjoy, sitting through an unranked on-dueling book or having to break that board. And you have that route of Borreload and Herald on so many boards from Halifabrax. Then they attempt to actually kind of hit Eldritch because they know that's going to be one of the next best decks that's already represented. That's pretty much their shakeup because that's taking up so much of the pie on all their top cuts. They're looking at their own metagame, and again, this isn't a permanent thing. Now, comparing it to ARG and words from YouTubers that have talked about that in the past and creating their own market. We did see that there is market impact from these events, but I don't think that the results are from changing the list going to be as heavy into, you know, the market. Again, you have that conversation of, oh yeah, they didn't have to play against this, but I liked seeing Ryan Yu do his thing with Striker, and I know liking seeing Striker play, what a thought. But without Engage, with everything that had to go right, with the amount of play and knowledge of the format that he had to use to make Striker win, it was a pretty impressive show. And today, you see that Rose is doubled in her price versus before that event. You see the Starlight Rares, something so expensive, actually experience mass buyouts, and that's already falling back out, but it's still $150 more than before that event. There is a direct market impact from the exposure the Pro Play Tour gets. You have streamers like Farfa, you have Sutff streaming his matches, you have tons of people putting a spotlight on here, of course, Simo, and Mono Bluetron. You have a huge exposure to the community with these events, and so when it is real Yu-Gi-Oh!, there is an impact. And let's actually talk about the first real Yu-Gi-Oh! Argument. People were saying, oh, you don't have real representation on these events. These aren't real events because they're online. People are going to be able to play anything, and that doesn't make it real Yu-Gi-Oh! A lot of people in the top cut, you notice, they're not playing budget decks. They typically have the budget they want to access whatever deck. Now, I will say that I do think Solomon Great would have had a much greater impact in the metagame in terms of representation, thus forcing a couple more towards top cut with how actually decent a deck it still is. So, with it being more budget friendly and more people probably last minute going to YCSs and having access, I do think Solid would be a little more represented. That's about the change that I see happening, though. If pros are traveling throughout the country, spending that kind of money on Yu-Gi-Oh! If events were live right now, they're going to play what they want to play. They're going to bring Eldritch. They're going to bring, you know, their Noodle Fuber combo. They're going to bring Adamancipator if they think Adamancipator's the combo deck to be playing. They're not going to be held back if they're already spending hundreds on flights, hundreds on hotel, splitting up, and then trading to make their events. They're not going to hold back on what they're going to be playing. You're still going to see most of that in Top Cut. But for people just coming last minute, etc., yeah, Salad Boys might have been there. You have that argument, but it's still real Yu-Gi-Oh! It's under the Konami ban list. It's under those kinds of things. Now, with this, you do have the results being varied towards what we actually have a conversation about. The conversation turns to, this is what we would get without Needle Fiber. This is what we would get without Adamancipator combo. This is what the conversation turns towards almost immediately now when Pro Play is going to be mentioned for a bit. And also, there's the long-standing confusion with ARG and how that actually went. You know, first off, people arguing that they were trying to sell stuff like Stratos's by unlimiting it, and that kind of stuff. That's a fair argument because they run these events in person and over a long time. You can have that argument with ARG. That's fine. With Pro Play, their intention isn't to manipulate the market. It's just that they have that much exposure. It's what everybody's tuning into. Thousands of people actually watching on the weekend. So with so many vested interest and eyes and so many active players, yes, the results are going to be spread. But now, I definitely think there's less of a market impact actually to be had from this. There's less of people going to just go and blind buy out things because the conversation's going to be had that this wasn't against the top decks. This was more of kind of a rogue thing. I think it's better entertainment value as a content creator. I think that what they're doing is going to have more variety, different decks than you would have seen before, and some interesting results. So there is that. I do think you'll have a better show put on and better commentary and that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I liked so much when the top decks were getting beat and were facing the uphill battles and then going through them with stuff like Salad Boys, Striker, and BA. I think that was a great time. Anyways, my opinions aside, what's yours on this list? And the creation kind of to do this. Some people go, who are you to do this? Well, again, they're one of the top online tournaments right now. And speaking to their volumes, they are hitting record attendance off this. People are still going to be commentating their stuff. People are still going to be showing it off. It's what's going on right now. There's still luxury tournaments if you want an alternative to go ahead and watch for the metagame and peek in. And if you want to support them for doing real Yu-Gi-Oh!, that's fine too. I think this is an okay move. It's temporary. It's a lot more temporary than I would have thought, being a couple weeks. And if I have the date wrong, it's like a month and a half if it's like 7/26. I saw them post about it earlier. So it's through their season. And I think they've planned it pretty much perfectly. More people are talking about Pro Play games than ever, but there still was lasting confusion. Like, even after ARG abolished their own ban list, years later, people would be like, is this under ARG ban list or not? I think you're going to still have that effect of, oh, is this under PPG ban list or is it current Yu-Gi-Oh? You're going to have that conversation for a very long time, but media and information sharing is a lot faster now. That confusion should hopefully slip a little. But again, what are your thoughts? They did minimalistic things. Should they have gone further? Should they gone harder? I think less confusing's better, and a couple of hits to try to see what opens up into the format. It's a creative what if, and you don't have to spend your money or watch their events if you don't want to. That's, you know, I know you might want to sit down and watch Yu-Gi-Oh! The way it's meant to be played, but you don't have to watch these tournaments. But I'm going to, and I'm gonna enjoy them. I think it's still a good look, and I think it's going to be fun to see a little what-if format during this time, especially with how they have gone about things. I don't think this is Simo Baby Rage, as a lot of people are saying. I think he did not control this whole list. Again, they had a panel, and I think it turned out not too confusing, and we'll see how it goes.